Hi there, it's Mark, and welcome to 2020. Wow, it doesn't seem that long ago that 2020 seems so far off in the distance, and it's sort of like it would never get here. It was science fiction was made of, and I guess from my perspective, having had a few years under my belt now and a few decades, it brings to mind how much can happen in a long period of time, but often we get sucked into a short period of time as being our reference and get frustrated that not enough has happened. So that got us thinking about the viewpoint that the innate secrets is about, and looking at the macro picture, looking at what we can achieve, what can happen, what can evolve, what can be invented over time, rather than expecting things to shift immediately. And I think we get sucked into, if you like, life in the city as compared to life on the farm. And every now and then it's useful to reflect on what can happen if you plant seeds and if you tend those seeds and if you work with the cycles of nature, rather than trying to force the life of the city, which is instant gratification on yourself and on those people around you and on the systems and the very infrastructure that we function in. And I think in Australia there's been a lot of bushfires in this last few months, which are it's devastating to see the destruction that takes place on life and property in this context. And yet this is a natural cycle. It's a part of the system of the Australian bush doing what it does to maintain itself. And unfortunately, man comes in and decides that property ownership is important, and that clearing of bush and backburning of bush is something that is not to be done, and so it creates a sense of things not being free to move. It's a clogging, if you like. It's a consolidation that takes place, say, on the forest floors, where if a backburn takes place, it lightly burns everything out, and so there's no fuel there for a big fire to occur. And so in the absence of that, then of course the big fires then come through, and they create a huge amount of destruction. But that's probably no different to health and healthcare and our approach to healthcare. We press minor symptoms, and we don't allow things to express in terms of febrile conditions with children and adults, and we don't celebrate having a great cold. Then the more serious things are going to come along, and the degenerative diseases will come along, because the body as an ecosystem hasn't been able to express itself. So there's and you could see it in the financial sectors, and when there's artificial quantitative easing and government measures to control the economy, the law of supply and demand tends to be distorted, and then we have a recession, and we have a depression. So it's probably we're overdue for that now, with the heady nature of the stock markets and so forth. So there'll be a return to normalcy, or a correction of that, but in the process there'll be carnage. And likewise with our healthcare system, because of the interventions we've made, there's carnage, and it's sad. It's hard to accept, but that's the way it is. So I think it's important for us in all systems to be aware of the innate cycles, to be aware of the innate wisdom of self-cleansing, of renewal, of reinvention, which often we too tend to neglect in our drive to make things happen quickly, and to in fact avoid discomfort and avoid pain. You go into any large institution and there's a lot of energy put on avoiding pain, avoiding people from experiencing themselves in many respects, or experiencing the sensations that we might term to be negative. So, and that's where, once again, in healthcare, there's a big push to make sure that people aren't in pain and that aren't expressing symptoms of disease, when in fact sometimes that's the very best thing that can happen for them. So, yeah, it's interesting times. I think there's, in retrospect, there's been a building of a number of different systems to the point where they're going to express or have expressed. And I think it helps to maybe look at it from the innate wisdom viewpoint and maybe get a different perspective on it. So that's sort of a year in review in that respect. But I think that it's important to, as far as CNA Secrets goes, is to look at where we've come in a year, because I honestly, when I started doing, I thought, well, I'll do this podcast for a little bit and just see how it goes. But it's sort of grown legs, and there's thousands of downloads now, and it's really, really cool getting some great feedback from people. So, very, very, very often I'll be out somewhere and someone will come up to me and say, hey, I listened to your podcast, it's really cool, thank you very much. Very interesting viewpoints on things, and maybe it may not totally agree all the time either, but it gets people thinking. So, we've looked at this from the position of the innate model and the 4 quadrants and the journey that we're on, and how that journey is something that is unique to us, and we have a unique philosophy, and we've spoken about that. We've spoken about how that transmits across into outcomes and goals, and the strategies and the tactics that we then employ in our life. We've looked at certain things around certainty and specifics and control, and where passion comes in, how we do that, and how important it is to be congruent with ourselves, and yet looking at the opposite of that, which is harmony. It's sort of they can coexist together in a way that supports and challenges our expression of this life form. We've looked at the aspects of foresight and hindsight and insight, and how they work together to give us a perspective and awareness. And we've had a look at structure and how structure causes function, and then how we can leverage on function. And we've looked at various aspects of wealth and our environment and how we interact with our environment, and obviously looking at how we choose our people and how we work with people and place people, and relative to the innate model and their innate superpowers. And we've had various stories around the Valley of the Blind and how we can allow ourselves to create a legacy, and what they look like and so forth. So there's been a beautiful journey of fairly short and quite pithy little podcasts, and then sometimes there's been the blogs that have been taken from those, and a few challenges like what part are you going to play, what are you actually going to do with your life, and challenges around are you lying and the value of lying sometimes, and then are you angry enough, and somewhat maybe provocative, also challenging you to look at your manifesto and make sure that you state to the world your position and your line in the sand, and how change comes about, and the importance of always reinventing ourselves and always being willing to look back and see what the path we've come, and then plan for the future, and plan to avoid the learnings or the mistakes that we've had, that we can then identify as learnings and then go forward with a new strategy. So, in some 64 editions this year, or last year in 2019, it's been a great journey, and I've really enjoyed speaking into the ether in this form, and I trust that you have too. So that's the year that's gone, and if we're looking now at the year ahead, first I just want to acknowledge all of you as listeners, and thank you so much for being a part of the CNA Secrets. And and I've had feedback from a number of you in terms of what content you want, and we've obliged where possible. Probably one thing that's being asked is look at the maybe bringing others on and having some interviews as well. So we'll do that definitely coming up throughout this next year. So people who honour the innate within, and if you know of someone, or if you are in that position where you work with this amazing innate wisdom in whatever capacity, then I'd love to hear from you, and we can hook up and do a recording. That would be really, really cool. So what I ask you to do there is to go to SoundCloud or iTunes or wherever you download this podcast from, and leave a rating and leave some comments, and obviously invite others too. Just put the word around. And I see that 2020 is going to be a year of building upon the platform that we've set now within the Innate Secrets. And obviously the Innate book, the Innate Model book, is a form of reference. I think that it was interesting actually, because someone came to me and said, look, how about writing it and adding in all the things that you now know about it that you didn't know when you first wrote it? And I thought, well, then it's going to be like 500 pages, and it's because there's been so much that's come to light since we wrote the book. And I think, no, I'd like to just keep it as like the foundational issue. So that's actually been rewritten or revamped. I wouldn't say rewritten. We've certainly added and changed quite a bit of it, mainly as far as readability is concerned. And so look for the new version of that. The Innate Model book is still just going off the shelves. It's really cool. And the Innate Ed, or the Generation Failure book for the education sector, is also having a really great reception in particularly in areas around the world where there's one or two people are really keen on it, and then it just gets introduced into like-minded people who are usually in the education sector. So likewise, the online courses, the Discover You and the Fantastic Future Formula, to just name a couple, are always popular, and they're a great way in which you can then take the innate model into this next stage, along with the challenges that we've done and the live workshops with the missing link, and of course the coaching. And we have new coaches in the process of being trained as well. So there's a lot of activity that's been happening over this last year, and will carry through into 2020 around the innate model. So it's exciting times, and it's amazing how the innate model just resonates with people naturally, and resonates with businesses and groups and teams. So it's I feel such a privilege to be part of that, and to allow people to reconnect with their source. And that's my sole reason for doing this, is to awaken people up and allow them to recognize their innate wisdom, to reach back to their source, to get in touch with their purpose, and to allow them to live a life which is full of gratitude and appreciation, and acknowledges the upsides and the downsides that we have within us. So it gives a perspective, from the microcosm and the macrocosm. We get to take ourselves on a journey when we start to recognize this power that is the innate wisdom. We can take a journey around right down into the smallest of things and see the order and the structure there, and likewise into the biggest of things. So we can see global issues and maybe universal issues that are perfectly balanced, even though if we focus on the news, we see that there's imbalance there. And when we look at the sense of order of the macrocosm, then we realize that, oh wow, actually there is a lot of balance being displayed here. So another big thing that we'll be doing this year, in fact February 1st, we're launching the Innate Centre. Now, this is a membership site that is a resource centre. It's there for those who choose to join, and for the first month it's free, or $1 I think it is for the first month, and it's only $27 a month. So there's a very, very low fee for this, and all of our innate resources are there. So, the private Facebook group, and which is for members only, and then we can chat to coaches and get to know your fellow community members. There's weekly discussion topics, there's Facebook Lives, there's our monthly book club, there's exclusive members content and resources, and there's new content being added every month. And so there's a whole bunch of content there that we've been saying, what do we do with this? Where should we? How do we get this out to people? That let's create a centre where people can come to, and it's in the middle of the innate model. If you look at the logo there, that white spot right in the middle, it's the pure light and energy of the four quadrants, and we wanted to have something to represent that. So that's what this is about. There's members discounts on most of the popular courses and events, so, and a lot more. So this is the Innate Centre, and you'll be hearing more of that. We'll be letting you know how to get in there and so forth. But you just Google Innate Centre. Now, for the American and Canadian friends, it's centre is spelled TRE instead of TER. So it's uniquely British, English, Australian, New Zealand, South African. So anyway, that's a little bit of the antipodes and the mother countries in terms of the spelling. But I'm sure you'll find that's the site. So anyway, so that's where we sit. That's it's been such a ride so far, with 1 year under our belt within the Innate Secrets. And I'll be turning up every week, so let us know what you want. Let us know who you'd like to hear from. Let us know the topics that really appeal, or maybe a revisiting of some of the topics we've covered so far. And let us know what are your most favourite. We can see by the downloads which have been the most favourite. Maybe we should feature a few of those and maybe go a bit deeper on those, which I think we do in the Innate Centre. So that's the name of the game. It's developing, and we just want to thank you so much for supporting us, being with us here on this amazing journey of innate discovery, of our innate wisdom, and I really look forward to joining you as 2020 reveals what it has in store for us. So I'm Mark Postles, and until next time, I will speak with you and communicate with me whenever you wish. So cheers.